About the show. This is an exhibit about restorative spaces that are both energizing and calming, resulting in an amazing positive atmosphere where good things can and will happen. I believe art can have power, and the power of this art will motivate and inspire goodwill, creativity, and perhaps even healing. While most of the imagery will have been based on some aspect of reality, the overall effect will be largely abstracted and thus more intuitively received by viewers. The core elements will be sensuously joyful, organic lines and shapes, unimpeded spaces, and generous amounts of energizing yellow. As a painter, I am a wrangler of visual elements, always trying to get them to behave and exist together harmoniously. My explorations will be geared towards plastic harmonies of biomorphic shapes and the emotional relationships and stories that are demonstrated by their spatial relationships. I have a strong desire to create harmonious environments. Through many transformations and many deliberations about how and why elements can influence their neighbors, eventually all elements come to a peaceful, unified conclusion. About my painting technique. I am an image collector, and I'm always gathering images that somehow strike me in one way or another as intriguing or meaningful. Or perhaps the image sparks my imagination. It will not be possible to bring all of my images to their full expression in my lifetime, but I intend to address as many as I can, letting my intuition guide my selections. My painting technique is transformative. This means I always start out with an image that serves as a starting point, whether it's a photograph or a scrap of paper with interesting markings or a simple drawing. The selected image is transferred to canvas by differing methods depending upon the desired level of complexity I wish to retain. I might use a grid method to paint the image directly onto the canvas from the source image if there is much detail to be exploited. I might trace the image using a canvas-sized printout if the level of detail is less exacting. For this collection, since simplicity is the essence of this collection, I've been using the tracing method almost exclusively. Once a version of the image appears on my canvas with all the colors painted in, it is finally time to begin to create my art. The painted image thus far is what I consider the underpainting. The transformations will be painted directly on top of the underpainting. Gradually, I'll study the graphic elements before me, making slight changes at first, smoothing a line here, editing out a blob there, adjusting colors and values as I go. A key feature of the transformative technique is determining which elements must be preserved and which must be changed in order to achieve the best result. About yellow. Some may wonder why I would want to feature general amounts of yellow in every painting of this exhibition about serenity, as yellow can be seen as noisy, unsettling, and frivolous. Yellow is my favorite color, as I've always been attracted by its energy, happy mood, and yellow's powerful ability to concentrate intellect and spirit. It's as if, to me, yellow exists for the purpose of propelling us to greater levels of conscious progress and creativity. Also, yellow exists for the purpose of allowing our spirits to soar high enough to be able to jettison away the everyday petty things that can weigh our spirits down. With such tremendous power, yellow must be used judiciously, allowing for all of the positive aspects to shine while limiting the potential overkill of its hyper puppy-like exuberance. Additionally, yellow must not be allowed to drift into the negative realms of dinginess and jaundice. Only healthy, strong yellows, and healthily yellowy neighbors of yellow, greens, oranges, browns, shall be cast into yellow characters of the paintings in the show. Placing some restraints on the overexhaustive use of bright yellow will ultimately allow serenity to coexist with the yellow and result in an amazing sense of peace and harmony. About serenity. What does serenity mean? For me, serenity is a condition of the soul, and it means calm acceptance. What does that look like? Well, representing calmness usually involves horizontality. Calmness can also be represented as a lack of excitement or an abundance of harmony or unity. A serene type of calmness, epitomized by expansive scenes in nature with sight lines that go into the distance. It's as if the idea of serenity has to do something bigger than you. Big open spaces embodies the serenity of the great outdoors. Indoors, most people find open, uncluttered spaces to be more calming than tight, cluttered spaces. Blues, cool tones, and neutral colors all seem to point to serenity. A notable exception would be the type of serenity found in a nice, warm, cozy cocoon setting. Definitely not an open space, but a space that also has no room for clutter or confusion. Venturing into space. The reason to explore more open spaces, as opposed to complex and filled spaces, is to train myself away from complexity, not only for the sake of time and sanity, but also for the potential greater impact of composition. This series journeys into a greater purpose of greater self-control and greater spirit expression. Some paintings that I've done prior to this collection are detail-rich, sometimes to the point of exhaustive oppression, as may be seen in Unbroken Silence, a recent tree painting. I don't wish to give the impression that I am dissatisfied with this painting. It communicates the contrast of the welcome, wonderful shade from a giant oak tree on a blazing hot, humid day. There is a shack on the right, beyond the tree, which does not seem to provide shelter nearly as well as the tree does. The tree acts as if it were an umbrella from the heat in the form of an oak tree. Unbroken Silence. The mandate. As I was contemplating ideas of simplicity, serenity, and yellow, I was engaged in the process of doing a small tree painting featuring yellow in the body of the tree, Positronic Spirit Tree. This tree had endless possibilities in terms of abstraction, as my starting image was a simple line drawing of a tree. The idea came to me with spirals. Make it a tree of spirals. Yellow spirals, green spirals, yellow-green spirals. Spirals to train my mind as I do one repetitive detailed spiral after another. Extraneous details, painful details, enough of the details. There, now do I have it all out of my system? This painting has a cheerful, happy mood, bursting with life. There's a systemic positive energy, positrons. Much busy work is to be done, but perhaps the focused activity leads to deeper thoughts. This painting also served to help me realize and solidify my new mandate to try to create a collection of paintings featuring an overall feeling of serenity while showcasing my favorite color, yellow. Since this collection is meant to challenge my abilities, it has also been daunting and somewhat scary. I wasn't sure how to go about or how to approach each painting. My mantra, more restraint, simple, breathing space, celebrate yellow. I would like to take you along on my odyssey to greater, simpler, and yellower art. Now the collection begins. The first painting, going with what I know. When you're throwing yourself into a totally new place artistically, it can be rather comforting to go with what you know and start with the basics. For me, the basics always come back to focusing on line, a fundamental and founding element of my personal art history. So my first painting was going to be a heavily line-based painting inspired by a winter photo I had taken of a shrub that lives in front of my favorite KFC Taco Bell on Weber Street. I've enjoyed many a taco in the presence of the shrub and was always appreciative of its perfectly rounded structure. Also, the shrub and its surrounding flower bed is one of my favorite places to sit and notice the beauty of the passing seasons. So I did a line drawing based on my photo of the bush, intending the resulting painting to be a dark on shrub on yellow background type of piece, almost like a silhouette. The plant figure itself does have color, but the colors are dark and relatively flat and unmodulated. As an experiment, instead of modulating the darkness in the lines of the shrub, I modulated the yellow in the background, going from yellow-greenish sky to a yellow sunny color towards the base. I love the radiating pattern suggested by the plant. This painting, about to sprout, will always remind me of the time in early spring when the sun is shining stronger, but the plants still aren't so sure about bringing their leaves out into the open just yet. While I was pleased with the simplistic, happy statement made by this painting, the line work still is on the overly detailed side, despite its relative flatness. So the next painting must push me further. The mood of this painting is happy optimism. The future seems sunny. The second painting, a favorite theme. The next painting needed to be sure and have more open and undetailed spaces. So a photo I had taken outside of St. Jacobs of a red barn on Sawmill Road seemed like a good challenge. Though I have no sense of what is actually grown within this structure, my guess is that it might be a chicken house. This long, narrow red barn had been taunting me with its wonderful simplicity. One of my favorite things to do is to play with the shapes of perpendicular structures. As an organic line lover, I always feel it's my mission to soften or eliminate hard right angles whenever possible. The barn provided ample opportunities. Letting go of the detail in the planks of wood allowed for many unfettered stretches of space. The red was too overpowering, so of course yellow took the stage instead. This painting, Grow House Groove On, has a happy, simple rhythm and had proven to be rather successful in the elimination of over-extraneousness. However, the gas meter on the lower left side was a detail I could not eliminate, as it seems to be in control of the whole scene like a nucleus, and it helped balance the starkness. Perhaps now I am on the right track, and perhaps I'm ready for something to further test my restraint. This painting presents a barrier, as if you're held back from progressing into the blue yonder. But the pause is a welcome event, giving one time to collect oneself and grow and prepare for whatever is out there. The third painting, more restraint, please. Can I keep this idea of restraint afloat? The next painting is based on a photograph from the front of an old rusty 1964 GMC pickup truck. There certainly is something special about the flowing lines in these older trucks, and I wanted to capture some of this wonderful form. So the structure lines of the truck became the armature of my painting, and it had to be preserved as much as possible. The rust was my chance for yellow to come out and play, and the unrusted aqua paint gently slid into a background position, doing its best to allow ample space for the yellow to run and play. I'm well pleased with the way the rust play didn't overtake the entire painting. Wuhuxadaisical corustination is the name, and the line of the truck remains intact. Now, maybe I'm ready to venture into a more abstract realm. The mood of this painting has a quiet playfulness, like kittens playing around upon the dignified mother cat who silently is observing and not intervening. The rest plays a part of the kittens. The vintage vehicle plays the part of the older, wiser cat. Wuhuxadaisical is a convoluted combination of woohoo, a happy energy, and lackadaisical, a laid-back energy, which brings to mind a happy calmness. Corustination is another convoluted combo of corrosion, rusted, and destination. It's kind of oxymoronic, in that because of the corrosion and rust, the vehicle won't really be reaching a destination. The fourth painting, Diet Coke Stranding. In the past, whenever I've attempted a pure abstract painting, I've always been gifted with these organic shaped characters that morph all over the canvas, doing as they please. While I still love the shape characters, I am now faced with restricting their reign, as I must give the wide open spaces more importance and prevalence. The lines and spaces providing the basis for this painting came from a snippet of paper doused repeatedly with Diet Coke. Yes, the lines are based on dry Diet Coke. So the way these lines relate to the background, almost wanting to dissolve back into the background, is what this painting seems to be about. Free-flowing dimensional spirit spaces. Unlike About to Sprout, the modulation here is occurring more in the lines than in the background. While the lines are freely flowing, still they're gently gliding near the surface of the background, like snow dancing across a country road. This painting, Yellow Flow, has open spaces enough for yellow to breathe and expand with its happiness. Wow, that painting felt good. I think I'll try another abstract. The mood of this painting is graceful celebratory movement. There seems to be a greater entity, say, the sorcerer in the upper right, transferring valuable knowledge and love to a smaller entity, say, the apprentice, on the lower left. A breakthrough or achievement has just occurred, and finally, there's breathing room. The fifth painting, another abstract. As I'm painting this piece, the shape characters are doing their utmost to make their usual rowdy appearance. But I say if they do appear, they must behave. Well, they did appear, and it seems as if there's a new sheriff in town. They did behave. As a result, the more compelling use of yellow was allowed to quietly emerge into supreme importance. Painting this much yellow on yellow is technically challenging and time-consuming due to the notoriously inherent transparency of yellow pigments, but so worth it for the warm, fuzzy feeling. This painting, Unbridled Innocence, intentionally lacks my usual high-level contrasting value and color for the sake of greater visual harmony. The lack of contrast points toward a softer feeling of freedom, total innocence, and an absence of foreboding. There's plenty of open space for the shape characters to play and explore safely. This painting is based on a scrap of paper filled with random paint marks. The mood of this painting is glorious, like walking up to an amazingly perfect sunny day with nothing to do but explore whatever drives you bliss. As I reflect on the painting, I am sensing a deep connection to my childhood. It's possible my childhood self may be characterized in this painting by one or both of the shape characters in the lower right-hand corner. The sixth painting, A New Confidence. In this painting, I'm again playing with perpendicular shapes. However, in this piece, the spaces are even larger than in Grow House Groove On. The imagery is based on a battery of industrial-sized power boxes located in a large factory warehouse setting. Double-door power play is perhaps the closest I've come to achieving an equal balance of abstract and representational imagery in a single painting. The wire cables are activated linear elements, quivering with electricity, leading the way for each box to be connected with the others. The power box door's yellow glow is suggestive of the massive energy behind them. The shadows also play a role, becoming both shape characters as well as dark patches of obscured light. The unbroken spaces startled me at first, but I'm beginning to become more comfortable and calmed by them, an important step on my path toward more open spaces. The mood of this painting is warm and somehow reassuring. There's tremendous power, but it's all connected and is only going to be used for the force of good. The orange in the painting is all about power and warmth, but the orange shape characters are safely restrained in their rectangular power cells. The seventh painting. This is what I'm talking about. This painting, next to godliness, was perhaps the most challenging, thus the most rewarding painting so far. The starting image is of a local Mennonite church, apparently on a cleaning day. More than most of my work, this painting has much intentional symbolism integrated into the imagery. I couldn't help it. There are just so many opportunities. The challenge here was incorporating the synergy of spirit while adhering to my mandate. Part of me wanted to ignore the mandate and get carried away with my ideas of spiritual symbolism. However, the mandate helped guide my decisions. The sky, part of the roof, and the body of the building are all relatively unbroken, and there's a great sense of horizontality in the building, grass, and line of trees. Also, there's a good amount of restfulness in the blues and greens that make up the greater part of the picture plane. The tree bough shapes are puffed up with expansiveness and joyfully bounding towards heaven, as if they're in a bouncy castle. And there's a certain amount of serenity in the figures sitting outside of the building. Their work is done for the moment, and they're taking a well-deserved rest. Interestingly, the female Mennonite figure's dress also resemble iconic female dress from Middle Eastern and Indian traditions. The yellow takes center stage and becomes key to some of the meanings in the piece: glory, sunshine, joyful happiness, new growth, and brilliance. The trees, originally behind the building, have overtaken the roof, allowing the spirit within the church to commune with heavenly and universal spirits. The greenish gold is a reference to the life-giving energy of the sun through the process of photosynthesis, serving to calm our hearts, nourish our bodies, and clean our air. The blue inside the building, seen through the windows, is the Holy Spirit, which is mostly interested in connecting with the trio sitting outside. And there's a faint spirit figure in the right doorway whose affiliation may or may not be with the dark side. The eighth painting, Revisiting Mikano. This painting, tawny transference of mojo, was an insanely time-consuming distillation of elements. The decision to use the selected image of Mikano was perhaps ill-conceived. I guess I was asking for it. The reference image was everything but serene. The vertical format, the complex level of detail, the industrial atmosphere. What was I thinking? The imagery evolved so much that there's very little resemblance of the final piece to its beginning source. I suppose it may have helped if I had been determined to keep the structure, like I had been with the GMC pickup truck. But I had been looking forward to tackling a piece with no constraints. So simplifications raged, and the shape characters were soon in control and being vocal as hell. On and on they went, having their way with me, and all the while I was feeling like I had failed my mandate totally, back to where I was before I started this collection. Or was I? Well, I did go out of my way to have the horizontal elements outnumber the vertical elements. The system of intertwining pipes and tubes is self-contained, thus allowing a feeling of snuggly, cozy warmth and comfort. And the colors are warm and soft, lacking harsh color contrasts. The shapes are large, curvy comforters. So, perhaps this is that cozy, snuggly type of serenity, replete with lots of gentle curves to nuzzle and interesting nooks to retreat into for a nap. The ninth and last painting, a culmination. In addition to honoring the mandate, for this painting I hope to incorporate some of the ideas that transpired in the previous 8 paintings. Again, this painting is based on a scrap of paper filled with paint marks. The general composition reminds me of the composition in Yellow Flow. The shape characters were not a feature in Yellow Flow. Many of the shape characters are more delicate and smaller than usual shape characters tend to be, similar to those in Unbridled Innocence. The colors relate fairly strongly to those in wuxodaisical Crested Nation and in Grow House Groove On, with the yellows stealing the show and the blues providing a calming backdrop. There seems to be an aspect of interconnectivity as seen in Double Door Power Play and Tawny Transference of Mojo. The use of collar-like elements used in Tawny Transference of Mojo reappears in this piece. I am striving to create and retain large open spaces and to have all the elements have a flow of elegance, like in Yellow Flow and in Unbridled Innocence. The painting is entitled Prophotonic Sunshine System. In the end, the painting seems to be about the hopeful idea of having a system in the atmosphere that is able at a molecular level to cut through the haze and ozone-damaging pollution to bring greater clarity and light to the earth. Like Unbridled Innocence, the level of contrast in this piece is low. But instead of the shape characters being enchanted by the possibilities, these shape characters are dutifully engaged with their very important mission.